Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear learners, hope you are well by the grace of Almighty. Today I will discuss one simple complex compound that is very much familiar to you and you have already learned it. Yet I can try to differentiate between few examples. At first we have to know the symbol of simple complex compound. Here I have written 5 examples. The symbol, at first you have to identify what type of sentence it is. Though, we find though. If we find though within sentence or from the very beginning of sentence, we considered it's a complex sentence. And we can change it rest of 2 sentence simple compound. So what is the main focus of though Pakistan fought well, they lost the battle in 1971. The focus is here. Either it is principal verb or be verb. Either it is principal verb or be verb. If we find principal verb in a clause though, although, we can change it in a simple by adding ing of the base form of that past form verb. Like, at first we have to change though, although in a simple sentence by in spite of, or you can use despite. If we use despite, we should not put of, just despite. Or in spite of, here if we find the noun from the subordinate clause and the pronoun in a principal clause, then the principal clause subordinate clause noun should be changed in the principal clause, and the pronoun here we transfer there. We know if we put in spite of or despite and the subject form after that is possessive form. In spite of there, fought, we find fought. What is the base form of fought? Fight. In spite of there, in spite of their fighting well, here we transfer noun in a pronoun, replacing noun on pronoun. Pakistan lost the battle in 1971. That is our liberation war, indicates here in 1971. The simple form of though Pakistan fought well, they lost the battle. If we find though, although, we in a simple sentence we can put in spite of. There we find from they, the possessive form, there, fighting, fought, the base form of fight, and adding ing, well, Pakistan lost the battle. If we find the noun in a principal clause, then noun replace in a subordinate clause, noun replace in principal clause. And what about compound sentence? If we find though, although in a complex sentence, we can change it in a compound sentence. From the very first, we have to deduct the complex symbol though. Pakistan fought well. We put but in a comma. But they lost the battle in 1971. Where we put but, in where we find comma in though although sentence, but, cause the two clause meaning is contradict here. Notice same meaning. The cause and effect is not the same. The opposite meaning. Cause Pakistan fought well, but they lost the battle. Generally, if any country fought well, they won the battle. Here, the two clauses contradict here. The next example is, though he has vast wealth. The difference between two examples is here we find fought, the principal verb, and we find has. Here the has, if we find has within although sentences, the has should be changed into having. In spite of the two person is same he, his. The objective form, the possessive form of he is his, having. If we find have, has, had, we can change it having. If we find am, is, are, or, were, we can change into being. Very, very important things. In spite of his having wealth, he is miser. Here, the no changes principal clause. If we turn into compound, he has vast wealth, but he is miser. If we want to turn although sentences into compound, we can put but where we put comma. The next example is, though he was lazy. If we find be verb in a though although clause, we can change it be verb in a simple sentence, change into being. And another change is the adjective turn into noun by adding suffix. In spite of his being lazy, he completed his work in time. Or, despite of his laziness, in spite of his laziness, he completed his work in time. And compound sentence should be, he was lazy but he completed his work in time. The next example begin with since. The complex symbol is we find here is since the weather was rough. Here the verb was be verb was rough, we could not go out. If we find since and in a complex sentence, if we want to change into simple sentence, the since should be changed because of. Because of the weather being rough, we could not go out. Or if anyone write the sentence like that, the weather being rough, we could not go out. Here we find change here by present participle, and here the sentence change by using because of. The example is changed by present participle. How could? You know, am, is, are, was, were, being. That is the present participle. The verb of am, is, are, was, were is a be, group of verb be, and the ing. How could we find being? Be plus ing equal to being. Both are correct. What about compound sentence? The weather was rough and. Why we put and? Cause the terms and condition, cause and effect are the same. We could not go out. The difference between two example is on is done by using because of and another is done by using participle. Both are correct. And finally, the example number 5, since she read more, not read more, she got GPA 5 in the examination. Since she read more, because of her reading more. Because of her reading more, she got GPA 5 in the examination. We can write the sentence by changing. At first we put principal clause, then subordinate clause. She got GPA 5 in the examination because of her reading more. Both are correct. What about compound sentence? She read more, and she got GPA 5 in the examination. You have to clarify the differentiate between the sentences. Here we find the principal verb, here we find have verb, here we find be verb, and since we find be verb and we find principal verb. That is the total discussion of though, although and since. So dear learners, hope you are trying to understand what is the differentiate between among the sentences, and try your level best to find any example and try to use this rule perfectly. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Allah Hafiz.